I think it's only right to kick off our Big Ten football predictions with the reigning national champions, the Michigan Wolverines. But don't expect a repeat of last year for Michigan. This team looks drastically different from last year's squad, and the schedule is much more difficult as well. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Wolverines. Can they make a run for a second straight national title? As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our exclusive newsletters, one that goes out weekly to everyone, and then we have our exclusive betting newsletter with some extra analysis there if you sign up for those expert picks, which you can also be found on our website. The links and the details are listed in the description below. But go sign up for those expert picks. Go sign up for those newsletters and become a member of our GE Nation, because we can promise you, you're not going to want to miss out on any content that we have the rest of this offseason, and certainly not any content once the season begins. So Michigan, guys, reigning champs, undefeated, won a national title. I mean, it was what they had been working towards. They had gotten so close for many years under Jim Harbaugh, kept falling short, and now they finally broke through, and that was kind of like the end of it all, right? I feel like it was, Jim Harbaugh was like, once I get this national title, I'm bolting, and that's exactly what happened. He left to become the head coach of the Chargers out in L.A., and then they lost everybody else. They lose J.J. McCarthy. They lose Blake Corum. They lose 3 of their top 4 pass catchers. They lose all 5 of their offensive linemen. They lose tons of the defensive side of the ball. But the thing is, this is not a Michigan team. Unlike Washington, who lost everybody, including their head coach, Michigan's in a much better position. They promoted Sherrone Moore to the head coaching position, was the former offensive coordinator with Michigan, was the active head coach for the final 3 games of the year last year when Harbaugh was serving his suspension. So Moore led them to wins against Penn State and Ohio State. So he's got a little experience there. Obviously, keeping a guy that is familiar with the program and familiar with the returning players was a big move by the Michigan administration. And I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think. I don't think the offense or the defense is going to take a major drop-off, because despite the offense losing as much as we just said, they've got a very good quarterback with a lot of potential. And Alex Orji, dangerous dual-threat quarterback that I think is going to surprise a lot of people as the year goes on. Maybe some growing pains early, but probably going to get the starting job and going to be better than people think. You've got Donovan Edwards, who's one of the best returning running backs in the country. And you've got their tight end, Colston Loveland, who had 649 yards and 4 touchdowns. They've got talent on the offensive side of the ball. The key is obviously quarterback play and how quickly the new offensive line can gel. Defensively, still very, very strong. Probably the strength of the team, at least to start. They've got 5 starters coming back, do lose their top 2 tacklers, but they've got one of the best defensive lines in the country. Derek Moore, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, and Josiah Stewart, all up front on that defensive line. Those 4 players combining for 17 of the 39 sacks that Michigan had last year. So that defensive line going to be very, very dangerous. Their number 3 tackler from last year, Ernest Hausman, returns at linebacker alongside the Maryland transfer, Jayshon Barham, who had 95 tackles in the last 2 years with the Terrapins. The secondary took a big blow in the spring when they lost Rod Moore to a torn ACL, but I still love them. Still love the secondary. Will Johnson returns with 4 interceptions from last year. Bakari Page is back there. This Michigan defense will once again be one of the best in the entire country. If the offense figures things out pretty quick, the Wolverines will find themselves back in Big Ten title contention and back in the playoff, where again, the playoff is now expanded to 12 teams. So a team like Michigan, or really anybody, can maybe afford a loss or 2 and still slip in there and have their shot at another national title. And take a look at the schedule for Michigan. To me, the season comes down to 3 games. It comes down to 3 games. Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. And luckily for Michigan, the Wolverines get to host 2 of those. They get to host Texas in week 2. They get to host Oregon at the beginning of November. So 2 of the 3 biggest games for them are at home at the Big House. Everything else in between, they can't afford to overlook those opponents, but there is a significant edge that goes in favor of the Wolverines. So they beat Fresno State, and then they host Texas. That's big game number 1. This was almost a national championship game last year. Texas made that comeback against Washington, was deep in the red zone on the last play of the game, and Washington broke up the potential game-winning pass, and it was Michigan and Washington instead of Michigan and Texas. So this is going to be a great game. No doubt about it. One of the most highly anticipated games of the year, and it comes in week 2. But Texas, guys, clearly owns the edge in a lot of areas, especially offensively. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country returning in Quinn Ewers. C.J. Baxter is a dog at running back. They've got a great wide receiver transfer class. Steve Sarkisian killed it when it came to giving Ewers some more weapons after losing so many after last year. Their offensive line returns with 123 career starts, so Texas owns the quarterback edge. They own the offensive line edge. They own the wide receiver edge. The defense for the Longhorns, 8 starters are back, including 6 of their top 8 tacklers. And they've got a very dangerous defensive line that's going up against a Michigan offensive line that maybe hasn't gelled and synced up as well as they need to be in week 2 of the season. I got to go with Texas here. I got to go with the Longhorns to come into the big house and upset, if you want to call it that, the reigning national champions. Look, before everybody goes, they're not winning at the big house. The big house is so tough to play at. They beat Bama last year. Texas, in week 2, went into Alabama and won in Tuscaloosa. Won by 10 points. They can do this. They are more than capable of doing this. And with a Michigan team that's still going to be dominant, still going to be good, but maybe is trying to figure some things out, I don't know if they're going to have it well put together by week 2 compared to a more veteran Texas team. They come on the road. They get this win. Michigan 1-1, but I think they win their next 4 prior to their bye week. They should cruise past Arkansas State. USC gets a welcome to the league moment against the Wolverines. This will be USC's first Big Ten game. Yes, the Trojans do come off a bye, and yes, they are a bit of an unknown team this year. What should we expect from Lincoln Riley's squad? Will the offense be as good as they were last year, despite the loss of Caleb Williams? Will the defense, now without Alex Grinch, take a big step forward? I'm not sure how quickly Riley can put this team together. And I look at Michigan. Having home field advantage is going to be massive in this game. Michigan gets the job done against the Trojans. They get the job done against Minnesota, who they beat by 42 points last year. They get the job done against Washington on the road in a national championship rematch. Like we mentioned, Michigan has a new coach. Washington has a new coach. Kalen DeBoer leaving Washington for Alabama. But Washington loses everybody. They are, I'm not saying devoid of talent, but when you lose Penix and when you lose your top receivers and you lose almost the entire defense, pretty much all the guys that helped them get to the national title last year are gone, and there is no continuity on this team, not even at the coaching staff. So Washington going through a mini rebuild in the first year without Kalen DeBoer. I do believe Michigan goes on the road and defeats the Huskies. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's about the same score as last year. They won 34-13 in the national championship game. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Wolverines once again win by double digits. So they lose to Texas. That's unfortunate, but then they rattle off 4 straight wins. They're 5-1 heading into their bye week. Make them 7-1 as they cruise past Illinois and they cruise past Michigan State. Fighting Illini could fight for a bowl game, maybe. Michigan State, though, going to struggle mightily their first year under Jonathan Smith and with a big rebuild in East Lansing. So again, we said 3 big games, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State. All the rest should be relatively easy games for Michigan. That so far has been the case. Now we're in November. They're 7-1. They take on Oregon. Big game here. Oregon, guys, first year in the Big Ten coming over for the Pac-12, and they are already a Big Ten title contender because they're loaded with talent. Dylan Gabriel transfers in at quarterback. The defense is absolutely loaded all 3 levels. I love this Oregon team. But if you take a look at Oregon, they're going to be a playoff team. I feel confident about that. But they're going to slip up somewhere. And I believe they're going to slip up in Ann Arbor at the Big House. If you look at Oregon, coming into this game, their 3 previous road games prior to Michigan are going to be at Oregon State, at UCLA, and at Purdue. None of those scream scary to me. This is going to be the toughest environment that Oregon has faced to this point. Yes, they will have played Ohio State already by this point, but that's in Eugene. So you get to host Ohio State, a game where Oregon very well could win. We're going to predict them later, but this is huge when it comes to standings. If Oregon beats Ohio State, Michigan beats Oregon, and Ohio State beats Michigan, you could see this crazy 3-way tie scenario coming your way at the end of the year in the Big Ten standings. We're going to get to all that later on, but I do believe Oregon falls in Ann Arbor. I think as the year goes on, Michigan's going to get stronger. They're going to get better and better on the offensive line. They're going to get better quarterback play out of Alex Orji as he continues to embrace the role as the starter. If this game was earlier in the year, might be leaning more towards Oregon's way, similar to kind of what we're doing with Texas there. Week 2, not ideal for a Michigan team that's trying to figure things out. But by November, Michigan's going to be rolling. They're going to be picking up confidence. They're going to get a lot more experience. Oregon, in the toughest environment they will play maybe in all season, falls to the Wolverines, and now we might have some chaos in the Big Ten. Because after they beat Oregon, what could be a mini upset there, they get past Indiana, although the Hoosiers will not be an easy game at all. Trap game for Michigan there. Kurt Cignetti, now head coach of the Hoosiers. A lot of talent that he's bringing in from James Madison. Not going to be an easy game in the slightest, but they do beat Indiana. come out of the bye week, cruise past Northwestern, who will take a pretty big step back after that very inspirational, magical 8-5 year in 2023. And now Michigan's a one-loss team on the road at Ohio State, who also could be a one-loss team. Who knows? Ohio State, again, having to play some tough teams this year prior to Michigan, one of which is a road game at Oregon. So this could be huge. This has playoff implications. This has Big Ten title implications. And that's really been the case the last couple of years between Michigan and Ohio State. Kind of a win and you get in for the Big Ten championship, which essentially is a win and get in for the college football playoff. This year, the stakes maybe not as high because either of these teams could afford to lose here and probably would still make the 12-team playoff. But you don't want to take that risk. You'd like to have the guarantee. So a huge, huge game in Columbus. Michigan has won 3 straight in this series. 3 straight for the first time since 1995 through 1997. But Ohio State, they went all in, guys. Ryan Day and this Buckeyes team, they said the time is now to win a national championship. And they went out and had Will Howard from Kansas State. They had a Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. They're loaded on defense. Maybe the best defense in the country this year. And now in Columbus, I got to go with Ohio State. I know Michigan's got their number right now. I know that now. 3 straight wins. That's a very impressive feat. But Ohio State snaps that streak. Home field advantage with a better defense than Michigan's going to have, with an offense that arguably is better than Michigan's. Again, I think Ohio State, to me, owns the edge in just about every category of this game. The Buckeyes take care of business, win that game, and Michigan drops to 10-2. Still a great year. First-year coach Sherrone Moore leads them to a 10-win season and potentially a college football playoff berth. Their only losses are going to come to Texas and Ohio State, both of which should be playoff teams. One of their wins is going to be over Oregon in our eyes, who could be a playoff team. So Michigan's going to have the resume, and they're going to have quality losses enough to probably slip in there, maybe not get to host a first-round game, but at least be in there for their quest for a second straight national title. But I think with 2 losses, only 1 conference loss though, they fall just short of probably making that Big Ten championship. But hey, that just means more rest in preparation for the playoff. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Michigan, the reigning champs, 10-2. Will it be good enough to get to the playoff? Leave your thoughts and comments below. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos as we get closer and closer to the start of this season. Check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those expert picks, home to those exclusive newsletters as well. Do not miss out on those, guys. We want you to check them out, sign up, and become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.